Right now, the United States government will pay you 2.32% a year to hold its debt. And that is after inflation takes its cut. Not 2.32 total, 2.32 on top, guaranteed in writing for 10 years. That is close to the best deal a saver has been handed in 20 years. And I want you to understand exactly why they are being so generous. They are not. Nobody at the Treasury woke up Tuesday morning feeling warm toward a 68-year-old with $100,000 in a bond fund. That number is not a gift. It is a price. It is what they were forced to pay after the customer who used to walk in every single month without being asked, without haggling, without ever once reading the fine print, stopped walking in. So here's what that means at your kitchen table this morning. If you have $100,000 and you hand it to the Treasury for 10 years at today's number, you get your 100,000 back plus about $25,800 of real money, not paper gains. $25,800 of additional groceries, gas, and property tax on top of whatever inflation does. That is a genuinely good deal. I am not going to stand here and pretend it isn't. Here is the problem. For the plan they have already announced to work, that number has to go negative. And almost nobody watching the news this week has been told that out loud. There are three things going on underneath that 2.32, and I am going to walk you through all three. By the third one, you will have a single free number you can look up yourself, any weekday afternoon, that tells you the day this changes. I have an alert set on that exact number. The morning it moves, I know within the hour. I will show you how in a few minutes. Here's the first one. That number is high because the buyer left. Let me explain what a Treasury auction actually is, because the word makes it sound complicated and it is not. The government needs money. It does not have it. So a few times a month it holds what amounts to a garage sale, except what is on the table is a promise to pay you back later with interest. Anybody can show up. Big banks, pension funds, insurance companies, foreign governments, and yes, you. For about 80 years, that garage sale had a customer who never missed one. Foreign central banks. Countries that sold America things, oil, cars, electronics, and got paid in dollars, and then had to do something with those dollars. And what do you do with a pile of dollars? You park them in the safest dollar thing there is. So they showed up, month after month, decade after decade, and they bought. And here's the part that matters. They were not shopping. They were not comparing rates. They were not asking what else was out there. They had dollars, and they had to put them somewhere. So they walked in and took whatever was on the table. Now imagine running a garage sale where one guy shows up every single week and buys everything you put out, at your asking price, without haggling. How hard are you working on your prices? You are not. You never have to be. That is the deal America had. Economists call it the exorbitant privilege, which is a very fancy way of saying we had a customer who never said no. And over the last decade or so, that customer started shopping. Now the option sounds different. The Treasury sets out the table, same as always. And the buyers look at it and say, sure, we will take it, but not at that price. And the Treasury says, you have taken it at that price for 40 years. And they say, right. And in those 40 years, you did not have $40 trillion of debt. And you had not frozen another country's money over a disagreement. And I had not watched you do it. So the price is higher now. Pay me. That is the whole story. That 2.32% is not generosity. It is the sound of a seller who lost his best customer and had to start competing for the rest. And you are one of the rest. Which is why, for the moment, you are getting paid well. That is one. Here is the second, and this is the one they published themselves. Everything I just described is a problem for exactly one person, and it is not you. It is Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. Because when the price of borrowing goes up for the government, it does not go up on one loan. It goes up on everything they have to roll over, and they have to roll over an enormous amount of it, constantly, forever. Every tick higher gets locked in for 30 years and makes the next auction worse. So they have to get that number down. Not want to, have to. And there are exactly two ways to get an interest rate down. You can make the borrower look safer, which means cutting spending, which nobody in Washington has done in my adult lifetime and is not about to start doing in an election year, or you can change what the number means. And that second one is where I need to tell you a story from my own career, because I have seen this exact trick before, up close, and it did not end well for anybody. In 2006, I walked into the mortgage business for the first time. I came out of car finance, where the rules were carved in stone: 5% down, on the lower of the sale price or the appraisal. No cheating in either direction. Numbers were yes or no. 1 plus 1 was definitely 2. And the first product anybody showed me was a loan called Pick-a-Pay. Here is how it was sold. The advertisement said 1%. 1%? A man could buy twice the house. People were signing up in parking lots. Here is what it actually was. The real interest rate was around 10%. You paid 1. The other 9 did not disappear. It got quietly added on to what you owed every month. Your statement said you had made your payment. Your statement was telling you the truth. And every month you owed more than the month before. I remember sitting there, brand new, asking the guy training me if I had understood him correctly. And he had. That was the product. Nobody in that building was lying. Every number was disclosed. The 1% was real. It just was not the number. Now hold that in your head, because here's the second thing they published. There is the interest rate they advertise: 4.64% on a 10-year Treasury as of yesterday. That is the big number. That is the one in the headline. And then there is what it is actually worth to you after inflation takes its share. That is the real number. Yesterday it was 2.32%. Change the denominator, and it changes the equation. I have been saying that on this channel for a year, and it is the single most useful idea I own. A house is not going up if you are measuring it with a shrinking ruler. And a bond is not paying you 4.64 if the money it pays you in buys less every year. So watch what happens if inflation goes to 6 and the advertised rate stays at 4.64. The headline still says 4.64. Your statement still shows every payment arriving exactly on time, exactly as promised. Nobody defaults. Nobody breaks a contract. No letter comes in the mail. And you lose about 1.5% of everything you own every year, forever. Economists call that a negative real interest rate. I call it pick-a-pay, pointed the other direction. In 2006, the borrower got a number that was not the number and quietly owed more each month. This time, the lender, you, gets a number that is not the number and quietly owns less each month. Same trick, same disclosure, same look on the face at the end. And here's the part that should stop you cold. It is the most effective debt reduction tool ever invented. And the reason is that nothing happens. There is no crash, no bank closes, no president goes on television. The number in your account goes up every single quarter, right on schedule, while the pile of things it can buy gets smaller. Nobody has to steal anything from you. They just have to change what your money means and let you keep counting it. I do not watch that number by hand. My macro command center at timtalksfinance.com/members watches it and tells me the moment it moves. That is 2. Here is the third, and this is the one that decides whether any of it matters to you. Now you are about to tell me this is all a theory, that I am describing something that could happen, not something that is happening, and that if it were happening, you would have heard about it somewhere other than a man on YouTube. And you are right. It is not happening. Not today. I am going to give you the number, and I am going to give it to you straight, and it is going to sound like it argues against everything I just said. Yesterday afternoon, the United States Treasury published what it pays on inflation-protected debt. 10 years out, plus 2.32%. 30 years out, plus 2.92%. Positive. Both of them. Comfortably. That is the machine, built, wired, plugged in, and switched off. If they were repressing savers right now, that 30-year number would not be 2.92. It would have a minus sign in front of it. So let me be a man who tells you what the numbers say, instead of what would get me more views. Right now, today, they are paying you well to wait. $100,000 in a 30-year inflation-protected treasury at 2.92%, held to the end, comes back as roughly $237,000 of actual purchasing power. It more than doubles what it can buy. That is real. That is guaranteed by the same government we have been criticizing for 20 minutes. And I am not going to lie to you about it to sell you a story. Here is why I am still not comfortable. Because that number is not a promise. It is today's price at today's auction. And every single thing pushing on it is pushing the same direction. Run it the other way. Same $100,000, 30 years, but the real rate spends that stretch at minus 2% instead of plus 2.92. You do not get 237,000 of purchasing power. You get about 54,000. That is not a market crash. That is not a bad decision. That is the same man doing the same safe thing on the other side of a sign change. About $180,000 of groceries gone from a $100,000 position without one headline. So here is your number, and it is free. Go to treasury.gov. They post it every weekday afternoon. Look for the real yield curve, the inflation-protected one, not the headline one. Find the 10-year. Yesterday, it said 2.32. The day that number goes under zero is the day the machine got switched on, not the day somebody announces it. Nobody is going to announce it. I want you checking that yourself, not taking my word for it. 30 years ago, I sat in a college classroom and got told the average four-year graduate makes $42,000 a year, while I was already making $38,000 part-time, selling long distance over a telephone. I did that arithmetic myself and walked out. And later, when guys in the mortgage business told me they made $300,000 working 40 hours, I did not believe them and I did not argue with them. I made one of them show me an actual pay stub. That is the whole method. Do not take the institution's word. Do not take mine. Ask for the document. This document is free. It is published by the people it indicts, and it comes out every afternoon at 3. And now let me tell you why I own Bitcoin, because it comes directly out of everything I just said. Look at what has to be true for a negative real interest rate to happen to you. Somebody has to set the short-term rate. That is a committee, and it meets, and it votes. Somebody has to issue the bond. That is the Treasury, and it decides how much and how long. And somebody has to print the dollars the bond pays you back in, and that is the same building. Every step of that is a person making a decision. The rate you receive, the thing you receive, and what the thing is worth are all set by people who have an enormous problem that gets smaller the more your money is worth less. I am not saying they are evil. I really am not. My own parents were nudged into credit card debt in the 80s by a system that made it the easy thing to do. And nobody in that story was a villain either. The machine does not need bad men. It needs an incentive, and it has one. Now ask the same question about Bitcoin. Who sets the rate on Bitcoin? There is no rate. Who prints more of it to pay the interest? There is no interest, and there is nobody who can print more. 21 million. Fixed. No servers, only a protocol. That is not a slogan. It is a structural difference, and it is the only one that matters here. A negative real yield is a decision. Bitcoin has nobody standing where that decision gets made. You cannot repress a saver in Bitcoin by changing the rate, because there is no rate to change. You would have to actually take it. And taking it looks like taking it. It makes news. It makes enemies. It makes people move. The entire beauty of a negative real rate from their side of the table is that it does not look like anything at all. Bitcoin has been a lot of things over its life. Loud, volatile, wrong-footed, embarrassing at parties, but it has never once had a man who could quietly change what it means while you kept counting it. And I want to connect this to the video I put out last night, because it is the same story wearing different clothes. The new buyer they found for America's debt is a stablecoin, a digital dollar backed by short-term treasury bills held by a man in Argentina or Turkey or Nigeria who will happily take 0% because 0% in dollars beats what is happening to the money in his own pocket. That is a real solution to a real problem, and it is going to work for a while. But look hard at what that man is actually holding. He is holding a token. Behind the token, there is a company. Behind the company, there is a pile of treasury bills. And behind the treasury bills is the same committee, the same printer, the same building we have been talking about this whole time. He did not escape. He climbed out of his own currency and into ours. And that is the thing to watch in everything they are about to move onto digital rails. They are going to tokenize the bonds. They are going to tokenize the houses. They are talking out loud in published legislation about tokenizing your savings and the deed to your property and the shares sitting in your account. That is not a theory I am spinning for you. It is a build schedule, and the concrete is being poured in public. So go down that list and ask one question of every single item on it. Who can make more of this? The tokenized bond has an issuer. The stablecoin has a company. The digital dollar has a central bank. The tokenized house has a county registry and a tax man standing next to it. Bitcoin is the only line on that list where the answer is nobody. Not nobody so far. Not nobody we have caught yet. Nobody structurally, because of the way Bitcoin was built. 21 million. And that number cannot be voted up by a board, printed up by a committee, or negotiated up at an auction at 3 in the afternoon. And that is the entire reason I own Bitcoin. Not because Bitcoin goes up. Bitcoin has gone down plenty, and it is going to do it again. I own Bitcoin because when the whole world reprices onto digital rails, Bitcoin is the one thing on that shelf nobody can quietly dilute while I am asleep holding it. Now, I did not start out there, and I want you to hear that part. My money was in real estate, because real estate is scarce, and it produces income. And in a plain, broad index fund, because I never wanted to pick stocks, put money in every month, go do something else. Boring, survivable products. That has been my whole career. I sold 30-year fixed loans straight through the housing bubble, while the clever guys down the hall sold the exploding kind, and I am still standing here, and most of them are not. So Bitcoin is not me getting adventurous at 50. Bitcoin is the same instinct I have always had, run through better arithmetic. I want the boring thing that survives. It just turns out the boring thing that survives is now the one with nobody attached to it. And let me say the uncomfortable half out loud, because I promised you the honest version. Bitcoin does not promise you 2.92% above inflation. Bitcoin does not guarantee you anything at all. It is cut in half more than once, and it will do it again, probably while you are watching, and anybody who tells you different is selling you something. What Bitcoin offers is narrower than a guarantee. It is just that no committee decides what your share is worth. That is a trade, not a free lunch. There are no certainties, only probabilities, and you are the one who has to decide what part of your savings belongs on which side of it. I am not going to make that call for you, and I would not trust anybody who offered to. The first time I ever saw Bitcoin, it walked into my office inside a mortgage file. A buyer putting about $500,000 of it down on a condo, and the system told me it was drug money. I did not win that argument by arguing. I showed my underwriter the public ledger and let her check it herself. She looked, she decided, and she was the one who cleared it. Same move every time. Here is the document. Go look. So that is the whole thing. They are paying you 2.32% above inflation today, and it is a real number, and it is a good one. They are paying it because the customer who never haggled finally started haggling. And the announced plan, move the debt short, find a buyer who does not care about yield, and let inflation run above the rate, only works if that 2.32 eventually has a minus sign in front of it. You do not have to believe me. You have to check one number once a month on a government website. Free, no credit card, 2 minutes. Take the money quiz at timtalksfinance.com/members. It shows you what inflation is quietly costing your cash, the number in dollars per year, plus the live macro numbers I read from, and one move worth considering for your situation. Members on the full package get the email alerts on thresholds like this one, which is how I catch these the same morning they happen. I built it so you do not have to figure this out alone. And look, there is not a right or wrong answer to this stuff. I am one guy offering a perspective and showing you how I got here. You might run the same numbers and land somewhere else, and that is genuinely fine. But run them, because the ruler is the thing that changes, and almost nobody is looking at the ruler. 2.32. Check it in a month.